Hey guys, we need to talk about the UFC getting into boxing. Hi, welcome to 200 Proof Boxing. This is our first video, so please like and subscribe. We were planning on launching our first video today anyway, when we heard maybe, underratedly, the most important news in boxing of the 21st century this morning. Dana White of the UFC and his company TKO, that also owns the WWE, is teaming up with the Saudis and Turki Al-Sheikh to start not just a boxing promotion, but a true UFC-style boxing league. This is what boxing fans have been clamoring for decades, a singular organization running boxing, with consistent rules, forcing the fighters to fight each other, deep cards, and only one championship belt per weight class. So at first look, this seems great for boxing fans, but there's still a ton of questions on how this will actually work. The first question, as always, is money. Will they be able to pay enough money to get all the biggest boxers to agree to this? Dana White runs a great organization, but the one criticism has always been how little UFC fighters make compared to boxers, because they don't really have any leverage when the UFC has a monopoly on the sport. Now, I've always given him a bit of a pass on this. The UFC is only about 20 years old, still a relatively new league, and it's growing. It makes sense that the athletes would make less money. Basketball players made a lot less money in the first 20 years of the NBA, but the problem is boxers are already accustomed to huge paydays. Tyson Fury made $146 million last year on 2 fights. The most a UFC fighter has ever made for a fight is Brock Lesnar for $8 million. That's a big jump. But of course, this is where the Saudis come in. If you don't know, the Saudis, headed by His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh, have been fixing boxing for a couple of years now. They've used their near infinite money to convince big names to actually fight each other and create some of the deepest cards in the sport's history by simply offering everyone too much money to turn down. And it worked! Last year, we finally got an undisputed heavyweight champion for the first time in the 21st century, and just the other day, we had the deepest card in history. Even with all that money though, some big names have still refused to work with them, like Tank Davis, and are still ducking obvious opponents and not giving the fights the fans want. Once again, like Tank Davis. But still, it's one thing for the Saudis to pay a few boxers for a few fights at a time, but to start an entire league and get every single big name boxer in the world who is accustomed to these huge paydays to give up their leverage and independence, which is the reason they make so much money in the first place, is going to take an ungodly amount of money. But if anyone has it, it's the Saudis. The next question is what happens to things like the promoters? For the promoters like Eddie Hearn of Matchroom Boxing and Bob Arum of Top Rank, they already have all of these big name boxers under contract working exclusively for them. And this league could be the death of these businesses that have existed for a century. While fans don't have much sympathy for these promoters, since they famously are a little corrupt, and their unwillingness to get their best fighters to fight another promoter's best fighter is one of the reasons we need this league in the first place. But it's still a huge practical hurdle. How do you get them to agree to give up their entire business and these fighters that they have under contract already? There's a few ways this could work. One could just be give them massive payouts to buy out all those contracts, and they can all go retire with hundreds of millions. Maybe they can be a part of the league, have some kind of revenue share. Or my idea, which is the most fun one, is to have them and their stable of boxers currently on their promotions as kind of like teams in the league. Like a lot of leagues, there'd be different teams, there'd be free agencies and contracts and fighting over athletes. And they can still do what they do now, where they have entire cards, which are just players in their promotion or on their team. And they can do cross-promotional events on bigger main cards, where they fight the guys on the other team. Just an idea. Overall, I think this is great for boxing if it works out. And money talks. If the Saudis are willing to commit the insanely high amount of money this would require, then I believe this can and will work. It might just take some time. So what do you guys think? Let us know in the comments if you think this is good for boxing or bad, and how you see it playing out. Thank you, and remember, once again, to like and subscribe.